Sometimes a story hits you so hard it knocks the air right out of your lungs, not because it's a big national scandal involving politicians, but because it's small, personal, and breaks the one rule we all thought was unbreakable: a mother's love. We heard about Kelly Smith, a mother from Saldanha Bay. She had a 6-year-old daughter, a little girl named Jocelyn. Now, when a child goes missing, a whole community gets together. They search, they pray, they hope. The mother is usually at the center of it all, her pain the sharpest, her cries the loudest. But this story had a twist that turned our stomachs. It was a betrayal so deep, it felt like it shook the very ground we stand on. The awful truth came out slowly, piece by painful piece. Kelly Smith, the woman who was meant to be Jocelyn's protector, her safe place, was the one who sold her. Let that sink in for a moment. She sold her own child. The court heard that she, along with her boyfriend and a friend, handed over this little girl for money. We're not talking about a fortune here. We are talking about a few thousand rand. The price tag on a child's life was about 20,000 rand, apparently. It's a number that feels both ridiculously small and impossibly large. It's the cost of a used car, a fancy TV, or in this case, a human soul. The people who were supposed to love her most became her captors. The details just got worse. The plan wasn't some spur-of-the-moment, desperate act. The judge called Kelly Smith manipulative, the mastermind behind the whole thing. She had apparently talked about selling her children before. Think about that. The thought had crossed her mind, found a home there, and then grew into a plan. A plan she carried out with her partners. When they stood in court, they showed no remorse. No tears for the little girl who vanished from their lives because they pushed her away. They received life sentences, but it doesn't bring Jocelyn back. She is still missing, a ghost in a story that will haunt our nation for a very long time. This case shocked South Africa to its core. It wasn't just a crime story on the news, it felt like a mirror showing us a very ugly part of ourselves. It forced us to ask some difficult questions. How does a mother get to a point where selling her daughter seems like a solution? What kind of darkness are people living in for this to even be a possibility? It exposed the cracks in our society, the places where our most vulnerable are falling through. It wasn't a monster from a fairy tale that took Jocelyn, it was her own mother, and that is a horror that is hard to comprehend and even harder to forget. So we have to ask the big question, why? Why would a mother do the unthinkable? It's easy to just label her a monster and move on. But that's too simple, and it lets us off the hook. The truth is, monsters are not born, they are often made. In Kelly Smith's case, the story is tangled up with poverty and drug addiction. This isn't an excuse, not at all, but it is an explanation. Imagine a hunger that never goes away. Not just for food, but a hunger for something to numb the pain of a life with no hope, no prospects, and no way out. That's what addiction does. It becomes a beast that you have to feed, and eventually, it will eat everything you love. This beast of addiction is clever. It rewires your brain. It makes your next fix more important than your family, your home, your own child. It whispers lies telling you that this is the only way. For Kelly, the need for drug money was so powerful it overpowered a mother's instinct to protect. That desperation is a powerful weapon, and there are people out there who know exactly how to use it. These are the predators who circle the poor and the broken. They see a person at their lowest point and don't see a human being in need of help. They see a business opportunity. They are the ones who create a market for the unthinkable. And in South Africa, this market can get very dark, very quickly. The court heard that Jocelyn was possibly sold to a Sangoma, a traditional healer. Now we must be clear, the vast majority of Sangomas are genuine healers, pillars of their communities who use ancient knowledge to help people. But like in any profession, there are criminals who hide behind the title. These fake healers exploit sacred traditions for their own evil gains. They create a demand for human body parts for rituals, for so-called muti. They prey on the superstitions and fears of others, turning belief into a bloodthirsty trade. They are the ones who put a price on a child's body. This is the grim reality in many of our poorest communities. Children become easy targets because the systems meant to protect them are weak. When a parent is lost to addiction, when there is no food on the table, when the world feels like it's closing in, the safety net for a child disappears. They become invisible. Criminals, human traffickers, and these fake traditional healers know this. They know where to look for their victims. They look for the cracks in our society, for the families torn apart by poverty and despair. They find a parent like Kelly Smith, and they make their offer, knowing that the hunger inside her might just be strong enough to make her say yes. The betrayal of trust doesn't always look as brutal as a child being sold. Sometimes it's quieter, more corporate, and disguised as an opportunity. It's the promise of a job, a way to make a living, that turns out to be another kind of trap. Look at the young people working in the food delivery business. You see them everywhere in the cities, on their e-bikes, weaving through traffic with big square backpacks. They look like they are part of the modern economy, the gig work hustle. They are working hard, trying to build a future for themselves. But for many, this hustle is a setup, a system designed to exploit their hope. Take a company like Green Riders in Cape Town. They offer young people, mostly from the townships, a chance to work, but here's the catch. They don't just give them a job, they rent them the e-bike needed to do the job. The riders have to pay about 900 Rand a week just for the bike. Before they can even start earning money for themselves, for their families, they have to make about 30 deliveries just to cover the rental cost. They are working 12-hour days, sometimes more, chasing orders just to break even. It's a cycle of debt and exhaustion presented as a golden opportunity for the unemployed youth. This isn't just about a tough job, it's about a system that is rigged from the start. And to understand why it's so rigged, you have to look at our past. Apartheid wasn't just about separating people by race, it was about separating people from opportunity. It built our cities in a way that keeps the poor far away from the places where the money is. The young delivery rider from a township like Dunoon or Bontahoywal has to travel for kilometers just to get to the wealthy suburbs where people order fancy takeaways. Their commute is long and dangerous, through areas with bad roads and high crime rates. So, the modern hustle is built on the old injustice. The legacy of apartheid spatial planning is the invisible enemy these riders fight every single day. They are risking their safety, battling traffic, and working themselves to the bone, all while the system is designed to take the first cut, and the biggest one at that. It's a betrayal of a different kind. It's the betrayal of a promise. The promise of a new South Africa where hard work pays off. For these young people, they are running as fast as they can, but the starting line was placed miles behind everyone else's. It's a race they can almost never win. After hearing all this, it's easy to feel hopeless. It feels like the darkness is winning. A mother selling her child, a system exploiting its youth. These are deep wounds. It feels like the trust between us has been completely shattered. But we South Africans are a stubborn bunch. We have faced darkness before, and we are still here. We cannot let these stories define who we are. They must instead define what we have to fight against. The first step is to see the problem for what it is. We must stop turning away. We have to look at the poverty, the addiction, and the desperation that creates a Kelly Smith. We need to rebuild the safety nets that have broken. This is not just a job for the government or the police, although they must do their part and do it better. It's a job for all of us. It starts in our own streets with our own neighbors. It's about checking in on the family next door that's struggling. It's about creating community groups that look out for the children, that offer a safe place for them to play. It's about supporting the real community leaders and organizations that are already on the ground, doing the hard work with very little. We need to become a nation of active watchers, protecting the vulnerable as if they were our own. We also have to challenge the systems that exploit people. Whether it's the fake Sangoma preying on fear, or the delivery company preying on unemployment, we must call it out. We need to demand better. We need laws that protect gig workers, that ensure a fair wage for a fair day's work. We need to educate ourselves and our children about the dangers of human trafficking and the criminals who hide in plain sight. We must give our young people real opportunities, not just the illusion of them. This means tackling the old ghosts of apartheid, investing in townships, and building a more equal society where your postal code doesn't determine your destiny. In the end, building a safer Mzansi comes down to rebuilding trust. It's about restoring the idea that we are in this together. The spirit of Ubuntu, I am because we are, is not just a nice slogan, it's a survival strategy. The story of Jocelyn Smith is a warning of what happens when that spirit dies. Our task is to bring it back to life. It will be hard, and it will be slow, but we must believe that we can be a country where mothers protect their daughters, where a job is a path to dignity, and where every child is safe. We owe it to Jocelyn, and we owe it to ourselves.